Hello，大家好，咁歡迎翻嚟 OneNightTalk 嘅特別節目，咁都係有我哋嘅 One Guest Talk 啦。咁今日咧又係我阿 K 過嚟訪問另一位嘅代表啊。咁呢個代表咧就係一隊 band 嚟嘅，咁佢就係叫做 Neon Society 啦。咁今日仍然都有負責人係啦，Indie 嘅負責 Theo 係啦，咁都會喺呢度同大家做個訪問嘅。咁首先so welcome to OneNightTalk here, and then can you introduce yourself and then also introduce Neon Society to the audience?
Well, first off, thank you for having me here. My name's James. I'm the lead singer for Neon Society. We're an anime-inspired rock band, so we really like to pride ourselves on dramatic lyrics, big sounds, and we're not really picky about the genre. So we'll go from, sort of poppier, folky stuff, all the way to metal with breakdowns and drops, and we like to mix it up in between songs too.
Okay, so how many people in your band?
Normally, we like to keep a roster of about 5 to 6. So right now, we've got a bit of a rotation going on. We just unfortunately lost a lead guitar player, but we've got drummer, 2 guitars, synthesizer, bass, vocals, and we're looking for a female vocalist to join us as well. Ideally, somebody that can sing in both English and Japanese.
Yeah, and then saw your Instagram, and then your band would play some J-pop and then play some anime songs. So, what is your favorite animes?
My favorite anime? That's a tough question. Yeah, I mean, I was typical for somebody my age, especially in Canada. I started with classics like Dragon Ball Z and the old school Pokemon animes and stuff. But as far as favorites are concerned, it's like some deep cuts like Busarenken, which is like an anime about fighting and alchemy. It's an old shonen. Or Back Mongolian Chop Squad, which is about a young boy who discovers music when he meets a sort of like an indie musician, rock musician, through his stray dog. Both are really interesting stories and kind of a little bit off the beaten path.
So is that those enemies have a very deep influence on you to play the music in that way?
When it comes to using and being interested in anime, when it comes to inspiring the music, myself and the keyboard player from my band, T, he's from Germany. Him and I have a lot of influence within the anime sphere. But the other musicians in the band, especially like Alex, who's our drummer, he comes from England, he grew up in Portugal. It was more of the themes from actually the Western adaptations of these TV shows that was more of an inspiration for him. We're thinking like the neo-metal stuff from, the early English Digimon or Power Rangers TV shows. That really inspired a lot of metal musicians in the 90s. So that's where a lot of his inspiration comes from.
And when did you first get into music and start playing this genre?
It's like such a stereotypical answer. My parents would tell you that I've been hopping on coffee tables and playing music since I could stand and walk. So that would be the cop-out answer. The real answer is I took piano lessons when I was a young boy, and then dropped music for a few years, and then as a teenager I started singing karaoke, picked up my dad's acoustic guitar and started teaching myself at about 14, 15 years old, and it just kind of took off from there.
Wasn't too into the piano, I'm
guessing. I think what it is my parents weren't willing to force me for long enough.
Yeah. No, same thing happened to me.
Yeah, of course.
A little bit of piano and then
just
kind of try.
If your parents are on you and they force you to learn it, then it takes the fun out of it eventually, right?
That's true.
Are there any bands or artists that who have a very deep influence to you?
Yeah, actually. So I, as an individual, I have a kind of a very dual spirit musicianship. I love the rock music and obviously the J-rock and anime music, but I'm also really into folk music. So I'll write like Eastern Canadian, almost Irish folk music. and so I get a lot of lyrical inspiration from those like deep-rooted story folk-telling things. And Great Big Sea's got a ton of incredible songwriting, but then I also get those like hard rock cuts from bands that I grew up with in Canada, like Linkin Park, and then also bands like Beat Crusaders from Japan that are absolutely incredible. They did the entire soundtrack for Backbone and Chop Squad. They're fantastic.
I'm a big fan of Linkin Park.
Yeah. I think if you're not, then you got your ears closed. Yeah, they're great.
So, and then can you also tell me a little bit about your music journey? You start your journey. You start playing the piano when you were young. So, how would you continue your music journey after school? How many time you spend on playing the music?
Right. Yeah, I mean, in late high school, when I was going through that early renaissance learning guitar for the first time, it was all rock music all the time, North American and European classics. And then when I wasn't playing guitar, I was playing MMORPGs and watching anime at the same time. So I spent thousands of hours doing both. Sometimes 2 hours of each a night, sometimes 16 hours a day on the weekends. kind of obsessed. I spent a long time. When I was in university for a couple of years, I put the guitar down, focused on school, but then music kind of came back into my life in a big way. I was volunteering in a fashion show with a bunch of interclub stuff. I went to Thompson Rivers University. And while I was tearing down from that show, volunteering, I met my old boss, Greg Clone from GK Sound. And I got a job working as a sound engineer and went full force into music, left university, started playing guitar again, doing sound and monitoring and working with bands like the Trues and Big Wreck and Danko Jones and stuff at Cactus Jacks in Kamloops. And it really just, I started building connections in the music scene, and then it just started taking over my life again. And when I first moved to Vancouver, I was actually playing folk music because I thought that would kind of get me into the scene a little bit faster, and I built a lot of great connections, but the passion always is with rock music, and as somebody that's been studying Japanese for 10 years, I always wanted to have that opportunity to maybe use some of that in my music, and so that's where Neon Society sort of came together.
So you can speak Japanese?
Very small amount. I mean, when I'm nervous and put under pressure, it's really awful. 10 years of learning does not amount to being fluent in any sense.
When did you meet your current band members?
So the guitar player that unfortunately just left the band, him and I started playing mid-COVID because I was taking a break from the folk music and I wanted to try something different. Yeah. And he was in a group with another guitar player and a drummer. They didn't have a name. They were just playing metal music. Yeah. And they were looking for a vocalist, and I found them on the Vancouver musicians page on Facebook, where a lot of us in Vancouver meet each other. It's a very common place for us to meet each other. And we were just playing together for fun. But the other guitar player and the drummer, they wanted to play very, very heavy metal music. And Sean and I we weren't necessarily looking to play like gent, hardcore, double kick stuff. We wanted to play lots of rock music, but we wanted to be able to be flexible in our genre. And so we started playing just the two of us, and it was through a process of elimination that I came up with Neon Society with no small amount of inspiration from conversations. And we went through a revolving door of musicians for a long time until we met Alex, who stuck on as the drummer for a long time. A musician, an older guy named Ted Purdy, who I'd played with in the folk band prior, came in to fill on bass for us and then stuck around. And then we picked up T last year to play keys for us because we really needed that synth in the background. You can't play J-rock without good keyboards. It's just not possible.
Oh, yeah. So is there any difference between the some anime rock or some mental rock and also the J rock?
I wouldn't necessarily consider myself to be an expert on the differences between them. I think the big thing that defines anime rock as a genre specifically is that it is music that comes directly from anime. So anime rock is a much more amorphous, ever-changing genre where like the style itself is less important than the content. Whereas like J-rock, refers to the rock music and progressive metal scene in Japan, which is incredible. There's some absolutely insane musicians. The attention to detail in the Japanese music scene is something that we don't experience over here.
It's a lot of fashion that has to do with that.
Absolutely, a lot of fashion has to do with it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get the guys into some tech wear, some streetwear. Like the lots of pockets.
And as you said, you're a sound engineer. So what's challenging in your job? What is the most challenging in your job?
Yeah, I actually have two jobs. So during the day, I run a landscaping company, and obviously lifting is the most challenging thing that we do, landscaping. But for the sound engineering job, I find that just kind of working with different personalities on a regular basis and trying to meet deadlines and really toe the line between what's good for the musician on stage and what's good for the venue, and making sure that the audience that's caught in between that is really getting the best experience possible. And I find that the best way to do that is to take the parameters that the venue has given you, make sure that the musicians understand what limitations you're dealing with, and then making sure that they hear themselves on stage as clearly as possible so that they can perform as best as they can, which gives them the ability to trust me. And when your musicians trust you, when the venue trusts you, then you can really do what you need to do to make sure that the audience is enjoying their night.
It sounds a very challenging job.
It can be. Yeah, it can be.
Yeah, so we talked about a lot about the Jaguar, about your job, and then also I know that in your band there is a lot of members that come from different country or different of the world. So how would you guys cooperate, or how do you blend your devices' cultural background?
Well, in some ways, the cultural background makes things challenging in the room, especially when it comes to communication. There's no language barrier, but sometimes the principles or the culture that you've grown up with means that you're going to say something that is going to be interpreted in an entirely different way. Even if the basic understanding is the same, the connotation can be different. That's primarily what's led to some of the disagreements and unfortunately the departure of our recent guitar player. But in the music itself, once we start moving, the influences actually kind of bring themselves and reveal themselves organically through the songwriting. There's a song that we have coming out in like September, October this year called Slipstream, which anybody coming to the show on the 24th will get to hear, although there'll be a lot of substitute musicians. It's got this like rock metal vibe to it in certain spots, but it's also basically a disco tune. The original sort of bass line riff actually came from a loop pedal thing that I was doing for some guitar practice. And then the keyboard player from Germany took his background, which is very heavily influenced by Japanese music, but then also the European EDM scene, and was able to make some really quite impressive and intense keyboard parts. The older bassist played in Toronto during the 1970s, hopped on it with some funk Rick Jamesy style bass lines, and then suddenly we were off to the races with this really fast-paced but also very clear song that sets a scene about two people sort of having a meet cute that sets them on a path to wanting to meet again.
Oh, interesting. interesting. So that diversity kind of helps you out when you're writing in the music.
Yeah, absolutely. It helps bring the best out of all of us.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, were there any first time that when you felt like giving up, how to keep going?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what we talk about or what we want to define giving up as. Like, giving up as a musician, I had those moments years ago. I've managed to kind of find a balance between being self-employed, which gives me a lot of freedom to play music, and I've really struck a good balance now where whether I become financially successful as a musician or not is irrelevant to whether or not I'm going to pursue a career in it. It's kind of, I now have the flexibility to just always put time into music and still make a living, which is a very privileged position to be in. And then as a band, it's always tough because there's a lot of clash of personalities, and the business half of being in a band, especially one that's serious about getting on sync lists and touring, is a huge commitment. And so when you don't find that commitment within your members, or you struggle to find that commitment within your members, then you're doing a lot of work and taking on a lot of pressure as individuals. And so there have been moments like that in the past where certain members don't really pick up their side of the table, and you start to think like, is it really worth doing all this work if you're just kind of dragging other people along with you instead of having that buy-in? But under the lights, it's all worth it. All those thoughts of quitting go away as soon as you're in front of an audience.
That's very impressive. Yeah, and not just maybe in the music, or some people they have their dream, but they are still facing a lot of challenging in their daily life. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's very impressed. So and then the next question, how did you know about the Indie Night, Indigo? So what kind of connection or the phase that brought you to take part in this show?
Actually, it was, so I discovered Indigo 9 through Sharon. So Sharon and Theo, their team, reached out to us because we've been playing shows in Vancouver, and they came across our Instagram naturally. So it was a very organic sort of connection that we came to. But since being asked to play on the show, I've been keeping in touch and following the page and reading all about the cool artists, and I'm really looking forward to playing this show and getting to meet so many people in the community and the scene that I haven't met before.
Yeah, for sure, and that's definitely one of our goals, is to connect in like these musicians in the scene in Vancouver.
Yeah,
and glad this show is gonna be a good start to that.
Sharon's already been doing it. They're the drummer that plays with her, Kevin, could be filling in for my drummer while he's away in England. And then she also sent me the information for a couple of people that might be looking to fill in that guitar position, or like I said, looking for that female Japanese vocalist to come and join us. She sent me a couple of options for that too. So those kind of connections are already starting to form because of Indigo. Yeah, I'm really appreciative. Yeah.
So for the audience coming to see the show, and then what kind of mood should they come with, or are you excited to meet them?
Oh yeah, I'm hugely excited to meet. Anytime you meet somebody that's there to see you play music, you should always be excited to meet them. I think the big thing for us is we're kind of exhibitionist in that sense, where we just want to show as many people our music as we possibly can. So when we get these opportunities to play in front of new audiences, it's something that we're always really excited for. As far as what to expect coming to the show in terms of what Neon Society is going to bring, due to circumstances, we're rewriting a few of our originals, so some of our more high energy stuff is off the table for this go around. So we're looking for the highlight single that's on our Spotify right now, Goddess in the Moonlight. That's going to be played. Slipstream, which is coming out in, like I said, September, October. You can look forward to hearing that. I have a couple of songs that were from the folk band Pleasant Trees that have been rewritten and readapted by Alex and I to fit the bill. So We're going to be performing those as well as the original Japanese opening for Digimon, Butterfly. We're going to do that. And I've translated half the lyrics into English. So it's actually an English-Japanese hybrid version of the song. We are going to cover the opening for Kaiju number 8 by Youngblood, Abyss. And then I'll also be throwing in, I Believe in a Thing Called Love. It's an English band called The Darkness. It's just a song that we do for fun because the vocal parts are, they elicit a very specific reaction from crowds because of how widespread the range is in the song. So it's a fun moment for me to kind of show off as a vocalist. It's kind of self-serving, I'll admit, but it's a good time. You can expect lots of energy and a good variety of music. So.
Thank you. So now I have to summarize it in Cantonese to our audience. 頭先都講咗好多，其實就係關於佢嗰隊 band 啊，Neo Society 啦。咁其實呢一隊 band 有啲咩即係咁特別咧？咁係因為其實佢哋主要其實都會 play 唔同類型嘅歌嘅。咁例如有啲係個 J-rock 啦，跟住有一類就係有啲 English 嘅，即係有啲好傳統大家都認識嘅 rock band 嗰一類都會有嘅。咁佢哋將呢兩樣嘢即係點樣去結合埋一齊啦，咁成為佢哋本身嗰隊 band 嘅一個 style 嚟嘅。咁佢哋原先嗰隊 band 咧就有5個人啦，咁都有唔同嘅 position， 即係有啲人可能玩 bass 啊，有啲人可能就係玩吉他啊，咁有啲人就係玩其他唔同嘅 instruments 啦。咁佢哋即係頭先都有提到，就係話佢係一個engineer，佢平時其實佢平時有2份工作嘅。咁佢朝頭早就咁佢有份工作就係做一啲 engineer 嘅工作啦。咁佢做 sound engineer 嘅工作嘅時候，咁其實佢都覺得呢份工作係好 challenging 啦，因為佢要同唔同嘅人去合作啦，要大家會有一個信任咁樣。咁除咗其實佢日常嘅工作之外咧，咁我覺得即係頭先佢講咗一個好好嘅重點，就係例如佢頭先分享咗一啲例如佢一個音樂嘅一個心路歷程啦，即係例如可能例如佢講過佢個 band 咁，如果大家有上佢哋嘅 Instagram 就留意到，其實我哋個 band 係有嚟自好多五湖四海嘅人啦，即係佢頭先都有提過有個 band 嘅友，咁佢就係嚟自德國嗰一邊嘅，咁亦都會有唔同國家嘅人啦，咁佢哋嚟自唔同國家嘅朋友，咁有時其實我哋都會有一啲溝通上邊嘅，即係可能有一啲誤會啦。咁雖然大家可能都識英文啦，咁但係可能有啲文化上面，即係可能大家講嘢嘅一個 culture 啊，講嘢佢哋嘅啲用字啊，咁都可能會有一啲嘅障礙。咁但係可能經過咗即係大家嘅溝通之後啦，同埋都經過咗同埋佢頭先都有提過，就係話佢之前做嘢嗰幾年嘅時候，即係佢自己一個人去靠靠音樂為生啦。其實都嗰段時間經歷嘅時候，佢都係幾大壓力嘅。咁即係可能會面對一啲唔同嘅生活壓力啦，又或者可能係會面對唔同嘅，即係可能係要諗自己係咪仲繼續去行呢一條路咧。咁我相信其實即係佢頭先講嘅嗰個，即係可能去追夢啊，或者去玩音樂嘅過程入邊，咁我諗唔同嘅即係可能嘅聽眾，其實你哋都會有類似經歷過，都類似經歷過同樣嘅嘢啦。咁但係都會即係都會繼續咁樣行落去，即係繼續都仍然喺呢隊 band 入邊啦，繼續去玩佢嘅音樂啦。咁因為佢哋大家都有共同嘅目標，就係去試好多唔同嘅 genre 啊，去試好多唔同嘅J-pop 嘅 music 咁樣。咁希望大家都可以就係支持多啲呢一個 show 啦。咁因為我覺得即係 for 我嚟講，我覺得呢個 show 好有意義，就係你係會認識到唔同你平時未必聽開嘅嘢。即係可能我平時淨係聽開廣東歌嘅咁樣，咁但係或者 pop music 嘅，咁但係喺呢個 show 入邊你可以聽到唔同嘅可能 J-rock 啊，又或者頭先即係對上個嘉賓我訪問過嚟，可能就係吉他嗰一類型嘅，即係啲純音樂嘅咁樣。即係我覺得大家都可以試下去聽多啲唔同嘅 music 啦。即係就算係即係可能你平時聽開 U2B 嘅咁樣，咁你會唔會可能試下喺呢個 show 入邊聽下一啲 唔同嘅人去玩唔同嘅音樂，會唔會俾到唔同嘅 inspiration 嚟呢？就係咁樣，咁係啦，咁大家就收拾好呢個心情啦，咁啊可以上佢哋嘅 Instagram，Indie 嘅 Instagram 上面，咁都有條IG 嘅 bio link 咁樣話俾大家聽，可以點樣買飛嘅，咁大家到時記得留意啦。咁首先 thank you for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you Indie玖for setting me up with you guys. Yeah, One Night Talk. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye bye.